watching the 4-hour chart very closely. Pring parameters gone into the negative region. We've dropped below the 200. When that happens, bad stuff starts happening. If we remain below the 200 here in the 4-hour time frame, we start dropping below the 100, stay below it. Right now we're testing it below the 20-week and stay below it, then that's going to be very bearish. Bounce off these levels, that will be bullish. If we go down, we could try to form a bottom with a higher low or a lower low. And if we get the lower low, you got a possible divergence with Pring parameter. In order for Bitcoin to turn back to bullish, you got to be able to get back above the 200-day moving average, or the 200 period here on the 4-hour, I should say, and get Pring parameter confirming it, going in positive territory. Get the 50. Whoops, sorry about that. Get the 50 back above the 200. And if I bring this up close, you can see again the possible 5-leg push higher I've been talking about. I talked about it before it formed. I told you we could see that form and get rejection around the 200 period and come back and get an ABC to get a higher low. Okay, and if so, this low is going to hold, watching closely, and again, you have the possible bull flag pattern. If we go lower, even if we go lower to the 55,000 area, you still can form a divergence and see this bottom out. So we'll be watching. But if you break these levels I've been talking about, then that's going to be very bearish. Possible 5-leg push higher here. We could be getting an ABC move. Watching, do we get a big sell-off with the CPI and PPI inflation data and Powell speaking next week? Or do we get a bottom, a Bitcoin bottom? This is the 200 period moving average of Bitcoin in the 4-hour time frame. Again, we lost it, tried to bounce, got the lower high, and then we lost it and we stayed below it. You lost it, you moved to a lower low, you got rejection at it, came down, and then you get rejection at it again. And here, rejection just underneath it. So again, you hold below the 200 period in the 4-hour time frame, that's bearish. You get back above this level, that's going to be bullish. Separates the bulls from the bears. If Bitcoin's cloud remains red and we start dropping, well, the support levels I'm talking about in this video, you're going to get a bigger dump. If you try to bottom out here, you got to see the cloud flip back to green. The oscillator bottom out and get back into positive territory. When you got a green cloud, good things are happening. When you got a red cloud, bad things are happening. Bitcoin continues to have a red cloud. Big things are happening. You might want to watch the video all the way through. Talking about the support, I'll be talking about the resistance, I'll be talking about the bullish scenario, the bearish scenario. It really all depends on what happens at these current levels. I'll show you exactly what I'm watching. I warned you that Bitcoin is going to go lower, test the 20-week moving average. We've seen that now happen. As we've dropped down, again, we're taking out the support levels, we're breaking them here, and then we're finding rejection at them here. Came down to a lower low, got rejection, and then here moved towards it, got rejection again. We keep getting sellers hammering away at this resistance level. So what I'm going to be watching is what happens at the support level and the trend line and week moving average, the 100-day moving average, the things I'm talking about in this video. So again, you might want to watch the video all the way through. This is a short-term trader's dream come true. We've just been going really sideways for over 2 months now. Okay, we've just been going sideways in this range here. Okay, and the bulls are down here. The bulls are down here, and the bears are up here, and that's created this sideways move that pushed on down to now possibly forming a bull flag pattern. Bitcoin had dropped about over 19%. Caught most of that move, locked in gains there at the 60,000 level because we hit support. This is where the buyers are, at the support zone, and went long. What would happen? Well, we went up to the 20 and the 50 and we got rejection. And so right here I told you we were breaking down, losing the 10 period, so I locked in small gains there, bigger gains to the downside, smaller gains to the upside, because again, we didn't have the momentum to get all the way up here. I was watching to see if we would. I went back to short, dropped it down. I told you it would. Went back, we hit the 100 period moving average, hit the 20-week moving average, and we hit that support level right there at the 20-week moving average and the trend lines of support that I talked about. I've been talking about at great length and detail. They're not seen on this chart, but I've been talking about it and showing you in every single video, and that's exactly where we went to. Trend line of support, excluding the shadow, and the 20-week moving average, overthrowing our 100 period. I told you we were going to bounce. And we hit the 657,000 area, and again, we tried to bounce off that trend line. So again, closed my short, smaller gain right there from the 10 period moving average down here. Flipped the trade at 57,000, went long. Now that could be a bottom. I've just been flipping the trades back and forth as we've been in this range, and eventually we're going to get a trending move. And if we break the 100 and stay below it, you're going to get a trending move down. If you push up above here, bounce off this 100 period and break this downward trend line, bouncing off of the 100 period, you're going to get a trending move upward. 100 period is going to define move. Do we bounce off of it or do we break it? And that really is what it comes down to. So if we break it, that's the time to get extremely bearish. We bounce off of it, time to get bullish. We're likely going to go back and challenge this high eventually. And if the bull flag plays out, then you have a little bit more room to run. Even if we put in a topping process, coin could still go make a new high in a topping process before it rolls over. So does it roll over here? And that's all she wrote. We have a lower high, lower low, and you know, we give up the ghost right here, and that's it. The 100 here and the 20-week moving average are going to determine that. Now, again, we're overthrowing the 100 period moving average. We're going to be watching the trend line. We're going to be watching the 20-week moving average. And again, if these levels break, if we start getting a CPI, PPI, inflation show-off next week, Powell's going to be speaking on Tuesday, the day we get the PPI inflation before the market opens. Wednesday, we'll get the CPI. Powell will be speaking. Do we sell off with the CPI and the inflation data, PPI and Powell? Do we see Bitcoin try to form a bottom? And that's really what it's going to come down to. This is the line in the sand right here, okay? And again, move out of a trading range and we're going to start a trending move. Is it going to be down or is it going to be up? And that's what I'm watching for. And really, that's going to be determined on what happens surrounding the 100 period moving average. And again, we get violated. You got the trend line below, just 20-week moving average below. But do we violate it and stay below it? Got that 20-week moving average. We try to bottom out, form a bottom here, and get one more leg higher. So that's what I'm watching with Bitcoin. The moves back and forth until the next trending move sets up. And again, it's going to really end on 100-day and the 20-week. And if we start losing these levels, they're going to trend lower. Then the short positions would be in favor. We bounce off these levels. Then the long positions would be in favor. And it really comes to that. Now, again, I got a great entry at 57,000. And I told you, it could be we have a 5-leg push higher and we get an ABC. And if that level holds, then 56, 57,000 area could be a bottom. I'm hanging on to that position, but I did go short again in a separate account as we rally back up. Had it fail, tried to bounce, and had it fail here. So we had this rally and it failed. Look, we couldn't get back up here, and we turned right back down at that 20-day. We dropped back to this level right here. So, again, a short-term trade there, but still hanging on to my long position. Again, this is a trader's environment. The buyers are down here, the sellers are up here. We could get a big move, so I want to hang on to that position. Could try to form a bottom surrounding the trend line. I know we can break it too, so another Bitcoin position on the short side right there. Again, I had already closed my other one over here for a small gain, flipped the trade at 57,000. So now I'm going to be trying either a small gain with that or hang on to it. Break. If we start going aggressively below the trend line, I'll abandon the trade at 57,000. Could go down to the 54, 55,000 level and still bottom out. But again, it could be a bigger dump as we're getting rejection at the 50 period once again. Like we did over here. Again, we broke the 50, the green line, got rejection at it, came down, made a lower low, back up, got rejection at it again. So I don't want to lose my entry point here if this is a Bitcoin bottom. I've just been trying to play these back and forth swings, back and forth. It's been working out pretty good. Eventually, we're going to get a bigger trending move. Really going to be determined surrounding the moving averages. Here, trying to hold this for maybe a longer term position. If I've got a higher low setting up on Bitcoin, then I've caught a bottom here. I can hold that longer term and again abandon the trade if you know it looks like we're going to start taking out that 20-week moving average, flip everything. But again, just playing again a short-term bearish move here, trying to do a longer-term move here if this can hold as a bottom. Did you hear the word if? I don't know. Depends on what happens. We got a bottoming tail the previous week. What happens to the candle in the weekly time frame this week? Does this low hold? So if it does, out of that position. But just trying a short-term trade here to see what happens, because again, we might bust on down and try to bust the trend line and bust the 20-week moving average. So, and again, still well above my 57,000 level here. Still, even though we're breaking the 100 period, we're at levels just under 61,000 at this level here. So I'm going to try to see what happens here and see what becomes of this. We start pushing up through this cloud area here and this high and the 50 period. Then my long play out, and again, I'll get stopped out on my short. So that's my trading strategy here. Just trying to play these short-term moves with Bitcoin until the next trending move sets up. And again, is the bull flag going to set up here and we're going to go higher, establish a higher low? Are we going to start breaking down? Like I said, we lose that 20-week moving average, then Bitcoin's going to likely get more downside, hold below the 100 period. But it's possible that we try to bounce dancing around this 100 period, the pink line, and our 20-week moving average. Are you picking up what I'm throwing down? I showed you my last couple updates. Again, we rallying back up, and if this is a Bitcoin bottom, we could possibly have a 5-leg push higher here. Still forming, and to talk about it, and then I talked about it when it completed, and then now again I'm watching, do we get an ABC correction and Bitcoin forms a bottom, and we try to rally with the CPI and Powell next week rather than sell off, form a bottom, we get, you know, a CPI inflation crash along with Powell, because again, the stock market and Bitcoin have priced in 7 rate cuts for 2024. Now it's been fluctuating between none and 1. Fed officials out there now saying, hey, might not see rate cuts in 2024, and we had that this week. We've got more Fed speakers next week along with Powell on Tuesday. Bitcoin ended up, again, going up to the cloud, getting rejection, tried to clear the 20 period, and it couldn't do it after getting rejection off of the 50. The Bitcoin Friday session closed out, giving back the gains of Thursday. Thursday we had a 3.10% rally, and we gave all that back, and we dropped 3.62%, moving a little bit lower. And here we are starting the Saturday session just about an hour ago. I really see Bitcoin's been going sideways. The signals have been going from green to red, you know, to buy, to sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, back and forth. And right now, we're still on a sell signal here, and that's been holding as we've been getting rejection off of the 50 period moving average. Here we tried to clear the cloud. You couldn't do it. Here we tried to clear the cloud with the Friday session. You couldn't do it. And that's why I jumped in on the short side. Again, a short-term trade here, a long-term trade at 57,000. We'll see what happens, but I'm looking for the next directional move. Is that going to be up or down? I want to show you some amazing charts. If I zoom out, you can see the trend lines. And again, I have one excluding the shadow, the red one right here, excluding the shadow there in January. And again, I'm connecting the higher low that's set up in October. We bottomed out there in September, and I connected this level, but excluding the shadow. And we just came down to it and rebounded, okay? And we're just above that level right now, okay? And that is excluding the shadow. If we go lower, a little bit lower, and go back and test the low, we can hit this trend line that includes the shadow. And again, that could take us back down to test the lows there, or maybe even dip below this level, but then rebound and get back up. And you still have the possibility of a bull flag here. So we'll be watching to see what happens. Do we get a decisive break of this level, this trend line right here, or the red one, and break these levels and start moving down sharply to the 200, get a CPI and a PPI inflation sell-off, or do we try to carve out a bottom right here? And if we try to carve out a bottom, it could be that we form a topping process and go up and make one more high, or get above this dotted red line right here, 69,000, then stay above it and not drop back below it, then you can have a bullish phase. Would be suggesting more upside and a bigger bull phase, and really validating a bull market. Right now, if we get rejection here, we could just have a larger correction still, forming a possible large corrective flat. So really, it's going to really be determined on what happens with Bitcoin, whether we take out the 100 period, that's this pink line right here, and stay below it. We're testing it, and again, you overthrew it right here, and you could test it. If we drop back below it and stay below it and take out that trend line, that's bearish. And we take out the 20-week moving average. We bounce up these levels, that's bullish. So are we forming a Bitcoin bottom here? I'm hanging on to my position, possibly longer term, short term trade to the downside, which again, if we come down here and we try to bounce, I'm going to close my short, add to my long. We start breaking these levels, I'm going to abandon my long and probably add to my short. So that's my strategy there. Again, it really depends on what happens surrounding the 100 and the 20-week moving average. Trend line is extremely important right now, and again, we're trying to bounce off the one excluding the shadow, so we'll be watching these levels. I'm going to show you this because, again, Bitcoin is at the moment of truth. Here's the trend lines. Here's the 100 period. We're just slightly taking it out. You're taking out the cloud. Now, the cloud taking it out, could mean we're going sideways. If we come down here, we bounce and we get back above it, and you get a breakout of the bull flag. Or if we're taking out the cloud, you break these trend lines, and we're going to stay below the cloud and stay below the 100 period. Bigger sell-off. This trend line is very, very important because, again, if this trend line is violated, we're going back to the 200 and to this trend line right here. And let me just bring up the 200 so you can see it. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the 400 period moving average as well. The 400, very, very important. But if we take out that trend line, you've got the 200 period moving average there, and you've got this support level in here, on into here, and here. You've got these levels just underneath the trend line, okay, over here and over here. Or if we exclude the shadow, just a little bit under the 200. If we break trend line and we break 200, again, pretty good shot. You're going to go back to this trend line, currently near the 400 period. If we bounce off these levels, then again, I'd be looking for a breakout for either a topping process where you go above this level, but then you peak out and turn back down, get a top similar to the two tops in 2021, or if we bounce and we get above 69,000, we stay above it, we don't drop back below it, that's bullish. If you can hold above 69,000, so far we haven't been able to do it. We've attempted it here one time, two times, and three times. We've had 3 times we've attempted to get above 69,000. We could not stay above it. Is it 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out? Now I'm going to break down with a lower high, lower low, and start moving back down to these levels down here, breaking the trend line. Or are we going to bounce off this trend line? So again, it is really all about support and resistance. And it's what I can tell you is that when you're above that 100 period, when you're above the cloud, the trending cloud here, good things are happening. When you drop below it, you're either going sideways, or you're selling off. One or the other. So here we're either going sideways, we're below it right now. So we're either going sideways, correcting, forming a bottom, or we're going to start a new downtrend to get something uglier. I'll be watching, do we form a divergence? Do we form confirmation of a higher low at that trend line? That's why I'm hanging on to my long. We might hit the trend line again and bounce. Try to bottom. Will we get a CPI sell-off with the PPI and inflation data, or will we get a CPI bottom? Is it coming cool, and maybe we try to form a bottom? I'll be watching these levels, but I wanted to show you this chart, very important chart on Bitcoin. I talk so much about the 100 period and the 20-week moving average because that's what separates the bulls from the bears. We've just been going sideways in a trading range for 2 months now. So again, a trending move. The next trending move is going to be decided. Is it going to be down? Is it going to be up? We'll be watching this trend line on the RSI right here from the last rejection we had at the 50-period moving average. We got rejection there. So again, we'll be watching the bottom out. Do we break the trend line? Break down? Do we move to extremes and remain at extremes for an extended period of time? It's all about support and resistance. Let me just say one other thing. Again, the 100 period is really important, and the 20 is dropping. If the 20 is a blue line right here, and if we see the 20 cross below the 100, then that could set up for a bigger dump and a bigger drop. Terminate the rally completely. Maybe we drop below it and get back above it. Here we got above it and we dropped right back below it. And you can see something like that. And that, if that happened, then get a bigger sell up, but then try to get back. And that would suggest that we're going sideways, much like what we did over here. We went sideways for a very long time, dropping below the 100, back above it, dropping below it. And if that happened, if the 20 dropped below it like it did over here, got back above it, dropped back below it, again, it would be more of a sideways move. And over here, the same thing. In the downtrend, this is in the uptrend. So what I'll be watching is what happens. Does the 20 take out the 100? It's not there yet, but it's moving towards it. Do we bounce off the 100? Do we break it? Again, when you're above the 100, good things are happening. When you're below the 100, bad things are happening. Here we tried to get above it. It failed. Finally bottomed out. We got above that 100 period. It acted as support. We went sideways, broke out, and then it acted as support again. So here we are. Moment of truth. What is going to happen? So again, if we're going to get a bigger drop, you got to take out the 100 print parameter, got to go into negative territory. It's still positive. We bounce. You can get a divergence here, form a top, a bullish phase. You get above 69,000, you remain above it, and you don't drop back below it again. This is what separates the bulls from the bears. Again, big believer in the 100 period moving average. Drop below it, print parameters, got to go in the negative region and validate it. We'll be watching to see what happens. I want to bring the 20 and the 100 up close because, again, the 20 is closing in on it. So we're either going to try to carve out a bottom here, get a bearish cross and get a bigger dump. The moment of truth is going to happen here shortly, okay? Here, 20 period came down. It couldn't drop below the 100 period. So if we do drop below it, it either means we're going sideways or we're going down. Also watching the MACD, does it form a divergence, and we try to bottom out at the trend line? Do we see a floor put in around, the 54,000, 55,000 area and form a divergence and then try to rebound, at the trend line, or do we just take this level out? So I'm watching the MACD as well, but wanted to show you the 20 and the 100 here up close because they look like they might get a bearish cross very soon, maybe over the weekend or on into next week. We'll be watching closely because the monthly chart got a reversal. We had the big move up, okay, and then we reversed that previous month's gains. We're still hanging on to the gains, most of the gains there, but started getting a reverse bar in the monthly time frame like we had over here or like we had over here at the 2021 tops, or again, do we end up getting a rebound? We'll be watching to see what the monthly bar looks like by the end of the month. The month is still young, so again, we'll be watching that. I warned you at the 72, 73,000 area that Bitcoin was going to go down and test the 20-week moving average. It ended up doing that. I told you that we were going to see a test of the 100 in the daily time frame because we had this divergence right here. I talked about it at great length and detail. It was forming up at the highs, and then the lower high that set up, it completed, and we turned down. So here we hit the 20-week, and we bounced. We had a 9% sell-off, and we recovered, and we ended up 1.5% higher, bouncing off that 20-week moving average. We're going back. Are we going to get a higher low? Are we going to break through this level, or maybe get a lower low? We'll try to bottom out. The moment here as we start the Saturday session, we're down right now nearly 5%, 4.93%. Bitcoin got a possible bottoming tail, but candlesticks don't mean anything unless they get confirmed. It's not getting confirmed. You need a confirmation and a follow through. So again, we get a bigger dump. Then we've got, again, the longer term trend line that I talked about. Right now, we're trying to bounce off that level. In the video, I'll be talking about including the shadow or excluding the shadow on the daily chart. So we're trying to bounce off this level right now. And again, if we break it, you've got your 50-week and your trend line. Now, it's still possible Bitcoin forms a larger divergence if we can bottom out around the 20-week moving average. As I've said, here's a weekly chart. The RSI can go back up and it could still form a divergence. Okay? Doesn't have to. It can, and we can see divergences on indicators begin to develop. Let me just say this. The RSI doesn't look at the wicks. It looks at the close of the candlestick. So we do have a higher high, and we still have a divergence right there at that level on the RSI. Maybe we have to go up one more time and form a divergence like this if we do, in fact, form a topping process where we get a solid push down or a solid push up for a negative divergence. And again, that formed the divergence right here, the bullish one, and then the bearish one over here. So again, the bearish one here on the RSI. So again, I stress the importance of watching the 20-week moving average. It's going to really define the bulls from the bears. And again, does our low hold here, or do we take it out or just breach it and then bottom out? So again, it's the moment of truth if we're going to get a whole lot more downside or if we're going to try to bottom out.